Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you a review of the XGIMI MoGo 4 portable projector. This series, the MoGo series, has been a very popular one for XGIMI, which is itself perhaps the most popular projector brand in the world in terms of units moved. And so this is obviously an incredibly important device for them because it allows, they're really trying to capture a vibe for a young hipster type crowd, of which I'm an obvious member, with features that are designed around, being able to create atmospheres, parties, and then of course, just a lot of flexibility in being able to view and display content, either in the way that it's streamed, but also in the way that you can position and use the projector to use that. Now, obviously, I'm not shooting in a dark environment today. There's plenty of ambient light here, and I am using just a white backdrop for projection here, just so I can kind of get everything on set here at the moment. So clearly not the optimal settings for actually viewing video content here. However, you can see that while this is portable, it still has a reasonable amount of projection light to view even in these kinds of lighting conditions in a screen that looks about 40, between 40 and 50 inches, I would estimate, compared to a typical TV type setting. So we're going to dive in and we're going to look at some of the specifications. We're going to look at the various ways that I've used it and the opinions that I have drawn as I've used it along the way. Now, starting with some of the specifications here, one of the main things, obviously, that they are emphasizing is the portability of it. And so they've even put a wrist strap for you to carry it around. I don't know who's running around with a projector hanging off their wrist, but I mean, it's the vibe, I guess. But it is compact. It is 208 millimeters in length and then 96.5 millimeters in its diameter and its height. It's basically round. And it weighs in at 1.3 kilos, and so right under 3 pounds. And so definitely fairly lightweight, and of course it has that integrated built-in stand that allows you to rotate it 360 degrees, and it's a nice stable base. So whatever view or angle that you have it pointed at, it's going to stay stable. And so even if you're just carrying it around and you're just using the device itself, you are going to be able to put it on a stable surface. Though, as we'll get to in a moment, obviously this power stand is a really useful accessory for a lot of reasons that we'll detail in just a moment. Now, this technology here is an LED projector. It is rated at 450 ISO lumens. And I do want to emphasize that it's ISO, not ANSI lumens. ANSI lumens has often been the standard in the past, and those oversell the brightness. Whereas this is ISO lumens. It is a more complex process or certification process, but it also means that if it's ISO lumens, it is brighter than ANSI lumens. So 450 doesn't sound high until you consider that in this class, that is right at the top of the class, and the fact that it is the ISO lumens means that it's probably going to be brighter than any of the competing portable projectors with the built-in battery that you might run into. Now, there is a caveat to that. Now, you can, even on its base battery level, just the device alone, you can run it at its standard brightness rather than the eco mode. However, all the runtime specifications that they're giving you are going to be for the eco mode. So it has a built-in 71.28 watt-hour battery, around 20,000 mAh if you're kind of thinking in those terms. And so they will market that gives you 2.5 hours of runtime, but that is in eco mode, which is significantly less bright. And so what I found that if I was running in standard brightness with just the built-in battery, you can probably about have that time for the amount of runtime you're going to get. I went for about an hour and 20 minutes, and I was under 25% at that point. And so you might get right over an hour and a half, but not much more than that. So just so you're aware of that. However, if you use the built-in power stand, the power base stand itself has another 20,000 mAh or 72 watt hours of battery built into it. And so basically you're going to double your runtime. And so if you're using eco mode, you can run up to 5 hours. If you're running in the standard brightness, I'm going to guess you're probably going to be able to get probably around 3 hours or slightly more than that. So certainly that definitely gets you into very useful territory. However, another added benefit here is the fact that it does run off of USB-C. You can also just connect it to a portable power bank, and as long as it has a 65 watt output standard, you can use that to power it as well. So, I mean, the amount of options for powering the MoGo 4 are far greater than a device like the Halo Plus that I reviewed last year, because the Halo Plus only allows you to run it off of its own AC power if you're going to power it from a power source. And so that just gives you a whole lot less flexibility in terms of the option, and it means you're stuck with the power brick itself. This does come with a power brick, that it looks kind of like an old MacBook type power brick, about that size. But obviously you don't have to use it unless you want to. And so it does give you some flexibility. So I love that it's centered around that USB-C port. This is a native 1080p projector. It can do HDR10, and so you can get a little bit more pop out of that. As far as the inputs on it, it does have an ARC-rated HDMI, and so you can transmit audio over that. Also, HDMI control. ARC gives you just a lot of different compatibility things, or flexibility, I should say, for doing different things over that HDMI standard. It has a USB-A port, and so that you can put in like a flash drive, for example, and run content off that. And by the way, it does have 32 gig of internal storage, so even if you're wanting to transfer some, maybe movies or whatever off, or photos off of a flash drive into the internal memory, you do have the option of doing that. It also has a USB-C port, though the USB-C port is not for connectivity, but rather for powering. Wi-Fi standard remains at Wi-Fi 5. Now, there's lots of different bandwidths that are there, so that's all good, but it's unfortunately not Wi-Fi 6 standard, which I would love to see them up that standard to the next level. The LED lamp, they're rating it at 25,000 hours, and so that gives you, running 4 hours a day at 17 years worth of use. So these days, I find that you're far more likely to become technologically obsolete with a projector than you are to actually have the lamp burn out. And so things have certainly changed from the early days of projectors. Now, they say that you can project anywhere between 40 to 200 inches with this. I would take the 200 inches as pure marketing. In fact, if you look into the fine print, they don't recommend going any bigger than 120 inches. And so I would say if you're in a dark room, you might be able to pull off 120 inches. I think around 100 inches looks good. And so just, be aware of that. Don't try to go 200 inches with this. It has a 1.2 to 1 throw ratio on that. It does have autofocus and auto keystone corrections that are full-time. If something moves, it'll automatically readjust, and it does a very good job. I actually find that it works much better than what the Halo Plus did for me. The game mode latency here, for those of you that might want to use it for gaming, is under 20 milliseconds. And so, fast enough that it's probably going to be in the range that you would want. So let's talk about another aspect of what they're marketing with this, and that is their creative filters. Again, they're marketing this not just as a portable projector, but as kind of a mood setter. And so you have an included filter in the box. They call this the sunset filter, and all it requires is just magnetically attaching that to the front of the projector, and it will automatically switch into the creative mode. Now, the first time that you use it, you are going to, once you tap it on there, pull it back off, because you're going to need to install an app, and it will automatically prompt you to do that. So it's a very easy and quick process, but you do need to, I don't know why they don't have that app natively installed, but it's not for whatever reason. And so you'll do that. And then after that, because it's magnetically attached, anytime you attach it on there, it will automatically cycle over into that mode. And so it's a really, really interesting thing, because it allows you to do a variety of things. And so the sunset one, you put it on there, it's going to have mood music, it's going to have different effects that you can do projecting onto a screen or a wall or a ceiling. You pass your hand in front of it, or you cycle on one of the remotes, including the attached mini remote. It actually comes with 2 remotes, and it will automatically switch through. There's usually about 6, 7, 8 options for each one in terms of the different kind of moods that it's going to create. But then they have an optional 3-pack of other filters, including the lunar, that looks like this, showing you the different phases of the moon, and it's cool. There's one called Ripple that kind of just has kind of fractured light going everywhere and just kind of moving. And really my favorite of these three is called Dreamscape. And Dreamscape just kind of, does kind of shifting colors and music along with it, and they are great mood setters. They're kind of showing advertising, people using it for meditating or for partying or posing in front of, for shooting selfies. It's also even a nice mood setter for, let's say, even other things you might want to do in setting up the mood in your bedroom, for example. So pretty cool. You have the option also to use a Bluetooth connection. You can use this as a Bluetooth speaker, and you can then just play your own music back through it, along with the kind of light show that comes with it. On the note of these speakers, it does have two 6-watt Harman Kardon audio speakers in it. The audio quality is actually surprisingly good. Now, they talk about room-filling bass. No, it does not fill the room with bass. I would say bass is the most lacking part of it. However, it does have surprisingly clear and room-filling sound, and I was really surprised by that. You do have the ability to connect other audio via either the HDMI and sending it over that, or you have the option of a Bluetooth connection. And I did note, by the way, that I didn't note any Bluetooth lag, and so I think that that's also a very good option if you want to expand your sound through other means. So what is great about this? Well, first of all, I would say that of the sub 500 lumen projectors that I've tested, this is definitely the brightest and has the best picture quality. The picture quality under optimal conditions, namely a dark room, are impressively good. It is very easy to set up. If you're familiar at all with doing the Google setup when it comes to the Google TV interface, it takes minutes, and most of the time you're not really having to do much of anything, just kind of setting along your way and doing some logins periodically. It took just a few minutes to get logged into the various streaming apps that I might use, so all of that is good. Again, under optimal situations, color and contrast is really good, and it does have better color accuracy than cheap projectors. The picture can be surprisingly crisp off of it, and so that was impressive to me for a portable type projector. HDR performance looks good if you have HDR10, and definitely adds a little bit of extra pop to it. The battery life is sufficient to watch a shorter movie, if it's an hour and a half or so, if you're watching at that standard brightness level. And of course, if you're using the power base stand, which by the way, it attaches so easily to this, it allows you to do easy full 360-degree rotation on that. This thing is really cool, and obviously just has the tripod feet at the bottom. And by the way, it all will kind of break down into small pieces. You can screw all these pieces apart, and so then it's going to occupy a small footprint, looks like that. So very easy to do. So you could throw that into a backpack or something like that. But obviously all of that is useful as well. And if you're using that, the battery life is going to be long enough even to watch getting close to Lord of the Rings level length of movie. The sound quality, as noted, is quite good. It's not room-filling bass, but it is room-filling sound generally. Everything feels tough, and one of the things I've noted about the XGIMI projectors that I have reviewed to this point, that they definitely have a premium feel and build to them. You can tell that they're nicely made units, and everything here in terms of the rotation. By the way, you can just rotate this projector, point it down, and click it down into place. It'll automatically power off. You can do the same in lifting up and rotating it on, and it will quickly have picture going, and it will boot you into the Google TV app really quickly. And so all of that is good. It has a stylish visual aesthetic to it, and so definitely wins style points, and that's clearly the market that they're going for. I do love the power stand integration and how well it works. There's one caveat that I'll get to on that in just a moment, however. It does have a more in-depth picture controls than what most cheap projectors do. You have more finite control over the picture quality if you want to, kind of dive in and tweak everything like that. It didn't seem to have any kind of lag while using Bluetooth for audio, which is great. As noted, the auto keystone and autofocus works better than what it did on the Halo Plus. I often felt like I needed to tweak things for the keystoning with the Halo Plus. I find that this does a very good job. And, if you move it around, it's going to quickly do that actual keystone process. And usually by the time that it's done, I'm happy with the result that it gave. Let's see if we can shift that back onto our set here. And so, it'll quickly go through that process, and it squares things off as it should. And one of the things that is very fun about this, because you can easily rotate it up, is that even if you don't have a wall that's clear, you can project right up onto the ceiling, which my wife and I did several times just at night, watching something before bed. And it was kind of a unique and fun experience to just lay back and watch looking up. And so again, because it has good keystone correction, you could just kind of tweak the angle to get it to where you want and get a nice picture up above your head. So all of that was cool. I like the fact that it has this attached. Now you can remove it, but it does have that attached integrated mini remote, and so all of that is good. And I will note that finally on the actual main remote, at least some of the buttons are now backlit. And so that is a big step in the right direction. I really knocked the Halo Plus for not having a backlit remote. And so that was good. The magnetic creative filters are interesting. And I don't think they're going to be, for some people, they're going to be totally a gimmick. For other people, they may really enjoy them just for setting a mood in a room and, kind of transporting yourself into a different kind of space in your head and in your atmosphere there. I love the fact that casting is native on this. And that was, again, another thing that I docked on the Halo Plus, that I actually had to download the Miracast app to do casting to it from an Apple device. You could do it from an Android, but in this case, even from my Apple device, it was instantly there when I popped up to see, just like from the NBA app, for example, and it was right there ready to go, and I clicked on it, and it immediately started casting. So no problem there. And then finally, a big deal these days is the fact that this does have built-in Netflix certification, and so you can jump right into Netflix natively. There's that room-filling sound right there. And so you don't have to use some kind of workaround to get to Netflix if you so desire. So lots of stuff that I like. So what don't I like about it? I always find that the external power bricks are a little bit big. Now, I'm less put off here because you have the options of running it off of USB-C and through other means. And so you don't have to use that power brick, whereas with some other devices, you were tied right into doing that. I don't necessarily love that it will automatically default to eco mode when you're just running off the internal battery. I'd like to have an option because I find that it sometimes isn't quite straightforward to find where to switch it into standard mode. And so there may be some people that are robbed of getting the full brightness out of their projector because they're, maybe unaware that they're in eco mode or don't know how to switch it into standard mode. So I'd like to see them tweak that in the UI to where it's just a little easier accessed. I also would like to see the Wi-Fi standard updated, and I think even with the USB-C or USB-A port, at this point, I think it's time to move on to USB-C for a communication standard at this point. Another thing that I don't love is that there is no case that is included for this. And so, there's a lanyard for hanging it around your wrist, but let's be real. That's not the way that people are going to be transporting this. So I would love to see even some kind of case included with it, and ditto for the power base as well. Just something to slip that into, even just like a nylon bag would be nice to have. The other final thing that I'll say that is a potential negative is that this is a premium product. And so in the US, it's definitely even there. It's on the upper end of these portable projectors. So it's about $500 without the stand, $550 with the stand. But here in Canada, for some reason, the numbers are really out of whack here. Here in Canada, it runs about $1,000 without the power base, about $1,100 with it. And so those prices are way, basically double that of the US, which is unusually high. Usually it would be a few $100s more here in Canada, for example. And so I don't know if that's a quirk that will get solved when we get to more retail pricing. But anyway, just something to bear in mind there. My conclusion is this: depending on your market, this is either a slightly premium in price product or it's a really premium product in terms of cost, but it may just be worth it. It is definitely a premium package. And it just works better than other portable devices I've used like this. And the fact that it's got that built-in stand that allows you to rotate and project in so many different ways easily, even onto the ceiling. That's huge, because I think for a portable projector, often one of the big challenges is that you've got the projector there, but you don't really necessarily have a good way of something to set it on and to aim it where you want it to go. And so that can be a really frustrating process. This does solve a lot of those frustrations. So you're not worrying about putting it on a tripod or something similar. You can do that. And of course, if you do get the power-based stand, then obviously you've got an even better thing to just set it on and, you know, away you go. So I think it's a great package as far as that. The picture quality for this class of projector is good, particularly in optimal conditions, you know, and if you're using it, you know, outdoors camping, maybe at night, I think it would look fine there. Don't try to do it during the day unless you're projecting in a really small area. But if you're working in dim conditions, you have a pretty good amount of flexibility on how big of a picture you can throw and still look definitely very watchable. So at the end of the day, for this class projector, this one is really, really cool. And I actually said yes to doing this review because I am going to send this with my youngest son who's about to head off to university. And so to me, it's a great university room type product to where you can display on the ceiling, display on a wall, and have fun with it. So at the end of the day, if you are in the market for a portable projector and you want one with high style points, and maybe even you're looking for some creative moods, then check out the XGIMI MoGo 4. It could be the projector for you. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let the light in.